Today, for Folktale Tuesdays, I'm gonna read a story that was written by a friend of mine, a Turkish girl named Rumeysa Kalin, who my family used to go there to their house in Rutland before they moved back to Turkey. Um, we used to play this game in the forest where we pretended we were animals, and we had a great time. They are the ones we went to Heybeli Island with, the King of Heybeli Island story with my New Zealand friend Scott Mackey. So anyway, without any further ado, Chapter 1 of Fantasyland by Rumeysa Kalin. Rumeysa Yıldız Kalin. Another note, the powwow grounds in Rutland, Massachusetts was right across from the Collins old house, and there would be powwows there, and I remember going to a few of them. I was in a Blackfoot family's teepee, the Blackfoot and Algonquian linguistic bench family, who broke off like the Cheyenne and the Arapaho from the Ojibwe tribe. The Ojibwe, who were connected to the Wabanaki Confederacy, the keepers of the Eastern Door, when the great shamans of old said, go west until you found the land where food grows in water. And then there was a Abenaki man's little conical wigwam. He had a sacred pipe, and he said, you can go into the conical wigwam, but don't touch the pipe. So anyway, that brings back good memories of that. So I thought I'd do a little Native American chant there for good memories. Anyway, Chapter 1, Fantasyland. Mum, I'm going to ride down to the library. I called to my mum. I had a witship project due in 3 days, and I had to write a 2-page essay on fantasies. Even though I love fantasies and fairies and stuff like that, this sounded pretty weird. I decided not to make the essay 2 words longer than how long it was supposed to be. Maybe I could even make it 2 words less. Mrs. Zisha, is that it? Zisha. Mrs. Zisha, I think it's a Polish name, probably wouldn't notice me. Jamie, what did you say? My mother called back from the kitchen. I said I'm going to the library to get some books on fantasies, I repeated as I went into the kitchen. Honey, you promised you'd watch Emmy for me tonight. You know I'm very busy. I can't take care of her tonight. I'm sorry, Jamie, but you can go tomorrow. You have 3 days to finish your report, she said, rinsing off a dish for the 100th time. That's not fair, I said, and stormed upstairs to watch my bratty little sister Emmy. She's 6 and tall for her age. I don't know why my mum makes me watch her. I mean, she's old enough to take care of herself. I'm 12, and you can probably tell there's nothing I hate more than watching my little sister, if I don't count baseball and taking baths and mice. Emmy, I called. What is it, Jamie? She said. She didn't sound too happy. I was doing my homework. What did you ever disturb me for? She demanded. Mother says I have to watch you tonight. Emmy made a disgusted face. I'll pretend you're not here. Yeah. Oh, and you can't go in my room. I don't want any icky germs, Jamie. Stay in the doorway and keep your germs on yourself. See? She is the most annoying, bratty, bossy thing in the whole world. As long as you don't touch me, I snapped back. I don't want your lizard germs. Emmy has a pet lizard named Coolie. What a weird name for a lizard. It sounds bratty, with a hint of babyishness. Just like Emmy. Emmy's face turned bright red, just the way I like it. Then she did her little dumb attacking warning noise. Coolie coolie gur, alia coolie manish, and she pounced. I got away just in time. "Halt!" I said. "Missed me by a mile." She had actually been pretty close, but I loved to rub it in on her. Then I went and sat at her doorway and watched her until bedtime. Chapter 2. The next day I finally got to go to the library. I looked up books on unicorns and elves and that kind of stuff, and when I came upon this very interesting book, it was called Journey into Fantasyland. I read the back. It said that it told you how to get into a wonderful world called Fantasyland, and that is where my adventure begins. The book said that I need 3 things: 1 ounce of baby powder, 3 dog hairs, and 2 lizard scales. Which sounded pretty weird, but I went along. I had some old baby powder left from when Emmy was a baby. There was just a tad bit left, but I guessed it would be enough. The dog hairs were pretty difficult, but then I remembered our neighbor's hairy dog named Luke. He's a cute, playful little guy, so it was easy to call him over and steal 3 hairs. He's such a friendly dog. I don't think he minded. Then I needed the lizard scales. Also pretty easy. All I needed was to grab a couple of scales that Cooley shed. But I had to sneak it because I didn't want Emmy to find out what I was up to. Still, it was a piece of cake. Emmy was downstairs watching TV, so I grabbed some scales and went to my room just in time and started to read the next set of directions. "Now put them all into a small pot and water and mix for 3 minutes, it said, so I did. Now it told me to drink it. No way, I thought. I'd never drink that. But I really wanted to, so I did, and that is when all the adventure begins. Chapter 3. I don't know how to explain what happens next. I'll just tell you the way it was, in my opinion. I drank the icky goo. It was way disgusting. I started swirling and whirling. When I finally opened my eyes, I was gazing at the fields of grass and beautiful trees, but I noticed something very peculiar. The trees were purple and yellow. The grass was a light pink, the sun was blue, and the sky was bright green. I saw a very funny-looking dragonfly buzz past me. Bzz, bzz, bzz. But the funny thing was, I realized after inspecting it carefully it wasn't a dragonfly. It was a little flying pixie. It had dark blue hair with twirls of rosy designs on it. She wore a cute little pink miniskirt and a top with teensy little words that were far too teeny to read. "Hello there," I said to the pixie. "Well, hello, hello, hello." "How do you do, squeaked the teeny pixie. Very good, good, I said unsurely. "How may I help you?" I'm kind of lost, I began. "I was wondering if you could help me by telling me where I am." "You're in the meadows of Trenton. If you find the lost city of Good, you will be fine. "Do you know how to get there?" No. The lost city has not been found for 2,000 years. Good luck. "Thank you. And one more question. May I have your name, please?" "Sure. It's Plum Princess Pinkie Pie Pumpkin Milkshake Chocolate Ice Cream Leafy Taco Cutie Chick." "Well, goodbye, bye. And with that, off she flew without another word. I looked down at the plains and valleys of rainbow colors. I didn't know which way to go. I looked at the pink and purple trees and the endless sky and wondered what I had gotten myself into. Chapter 4. I started walking in the direction of the trees, the valleys and plains that seemed to stretch out forever. Didn't look likely to take me anywhere. I walked slowly, humming a song to myself. It was "The wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round." I don't really know why. It was just the first song that popped into my head. I thought about home. It was great to be away from my sister, but I felt very lonely. That little pixie seemed awfully busy and kind of only wanted to come when I needed her. But as I was walking toward the forest, I could see a figure just in the entryway of the forest. I walked faster. I was halfway jogging by now. When I was close enough, I realized that the figure was a gnome who was only about 3 feet tall, with long pointy ears. He was dressed in green. He was just a tad bit chubby and had the grin that was way too wide on his face. His eyes were a shade of yellow. They weren't scary, they were cheerful and happy. His face could cheer anyone up at their most tragic times, just with one glance. His smile was a bit crooked, but it was sweet. "Hello there," chirped the gnome. His voice was cheerful and kind. "Hello," I called back. The gnome did a cartwheel, a back handspring. Then he started to walk into front handspring toward me. I cautiously walked toward the creature. Now that I was in Fantasyland, anything could happen. This cheerful-looking gnome could actually be of some bigger help. That is, bigger help than Plum Princess, Pinkie Pie, Pumpkin Milkshake, Chocolate Ice Cream, Leafy Taco Cutie Chick. Now that, not that she didn't help me, I am the guard of the forest of the creatures. Name's Elf L. My name's Elf L. We haven't seen a creature like you for centuries. I thought the unicorn of true good had destroyed the magic spell book in this world. Oh well, I know what you seek. Have you figured out the way to the city yet? I saw you talking to Myrtle over there, said the gnome. You mean the little pixie? She said her name was Plum Princess, Pinkie Pie, Pumpkin Milkshake, Chocolate Ice Cream, Leafy Taco, Cutie Chick, I said. Myrtle's always fooling around with her name. Says it's ugly, but I actually think it's truly purty. She's a good feller, Murdy is, and the only thing Murdy's afraid of is sheep. Can you believe that? Just a teeny harmless little lamb could scare her out of her witch. She ain't afraid of dragons, aliens. She ain't scared of nothing but white woolly sheep, the gnome cried. I haven't figured out the way to the city yet. Myrtle didn't give me much help on that. Well, here. And he gave me, with that he handed me a torch, an electric torch. You might need this in the forest of the creatures. If you shine this light in any of the creatures' eyes, they disappear. Just in case, I don't give this to everyone who passes the forest of creatures, so consider yourself lucky, the little gnome said with a smile. Can you come with me? I asked the elf. He seemed like a really nice guy. Wish I could, asked the gnome. Wish I could, started the gnome, but I have to guard the forest. There are some other forests, too. My brothers and sisters guard those. Just tell them that Elf L wants them to keep you out on the journey. All right? Said the gnome. I smiled. All right, I said, and I started walking through the dried leaves and endless trees around me. Chapter 5. I started through the forest. There was a slightly visible path with less trees and thorny bushes. I walked along it just to be on the safe side. Wouldn't want to get lost in this mess of a jungle. I found a stick lying on an angle against the tree. I grabbed it and used it as a walking stick to part the long branches that blocked the path. There was a bush. Then a bush started to move. I froze. It moved again. I held my breath. And out of the bush came a monster! I screamed. The monster pounced on me, baring its teeth to show huge knives coming out of his mouth. Well, they looked like knives. A drop of saliva slid down the monster's chin. Then I remembered the flashlight, the torch, the electric torch. I frantically searched through my pocket and finally grasped it. I shined it in the monster's eyes, and it disappeared instantly. Earl was right. Now I kept the torch in my hand, just in case. I made my way through the woods pretty easy after that. I only met a couple more monsters after my first terrifying attack. I looked around. I saw another grove of trees to my right. I walked toward it. Maybe it was one of Elfel's brothers or sisters in the forests. As I walked closer, I saw another gnome that looked a bit like Elf but had a pink suit and a pink bow on her head. It must be one of Elf's sisters, I thought. "Hello!" I called out to her just as I called out to Elf. "Hello, she called back. "What brings you here?" I told her about Elfel, how everything had happened. Well, you've come with the blessings of my brother. My name is Eliza. Any friend of Elf's is a friend of mine. My name is Jamie. Will this do any good in your forest? I asked, taking out the torch that Elfel had given me. Oh, yes, said Eliza. That torch will defeat any monster in any of our forests. Oh, except in the Forest of Difference. Watch yourself there, or hope that Antina, the guard, will give you a torch that will defeat the monsters there. Everything is different in there. Well, maybe it doesn't have any monsters at all, since it's so different. Well, thank you, Eliza, I said. I will be careful. Farewell. Farewell, young Jamie, Eliza called. Young? I wondered. Why-ever did she say that? Chapter 6. The forest was very easy to get through. I only came upon two monsters, but they were not terrifying at all. Actually, I even ignored one of them. It looked like a squirrel. I wondered if it could hurt anyone, since the tiny little creature seemed so harmless. I let it go. The other was also small, but it was fierce, and it was blocking the path, so I had to use my weapon of light against it. The rest of the forest was just trees and bushes and stray twigs. I was glad when I was out of the forest. I still had to find the lost city of good, and then who knows what will happen after that. I kept walking. I turned into a light jog. I was thirsty. I saw a pond nearby, but that was the only thing in sight for a long time. Around me were all hills. I couldn't know what was behind all of them. I jogged over to the pond and drank a handful. I was feeling dizzy. Then everything went black. Chapter 7. Ah! Ow! Ow! I cried as a hard hoof jumped on my chest. Then some water splashed over my face. The dizziness was gone, but I didn't know where I was. Where am I? I asked the blurry figure that stood above me. It was white with a couple of brown speckles. The figure looked just like a horse, but with wings and a horn in the middle of its forehead. It was a unicorn. You are precisely where you are, said the unicorn scornfully. Hasn't your mother taught you better than to play around the river of dizziness and to drink out of it? I know you aren't the smartest person I ever met. Huh? I said, still confused. My name's Clover. Nice to meet you. Are you a unicorn? I asked in amazement. I loved unicorns, and I'd read a million of books about them, but I've never actually seen one. Well, what do you think I look like, a dragon? You bet I'm a uni, and I'm proud of it too. Clover neighed proudly and did a bow. How may I help you? She asked with a sweet smile. I'm trying to find the lost city of good. Would you be able to help me? Oh, yes, sure. Absolutely. The queen is my sister. I don't choose to live in the palace, though. I'm too fancy. I prefer to live in the free land of nature, like a wild horse. I'll lead you all to the palace the short way. Wow! Thanks a lot, Clover. Hey, don't mention it, okay? She neighed. I grinned. I knew it. I had a lot to write about in my fantasy report to Mrs. Zisha. Now, come on, called Clover, speeding up. We've got a palace to get to. Hey, don't go too fast. I only have 2 feet, unlike you, I said, breathing hard and pretending to be tired. All right, then. I have an idea. Hey, I didn't get your name, she said. Jamie. Call me Jamie. All right now, Jamie. Hop on my back, and I'll ride you the rest of the way. 'Kay? Said Clover. Great, I thought. This is exactly what I was getting at. So I hopped on her back, and then something totally miraculous happened. We started to fly. It was wonderful, I tell you. I held on to her horn, and oh, it was amazing. It was unexplainable. I grinned widely at the scene below us as we flew toward the palace. I couldn't wait. I believe this is chapter... What was the last chapter now? 8. Chapter 8. I thought about what I was going through. It was too good to be true. I mean, if I explained it to anyone back in the real world, it would truly make a wondrous story. I was riding on a unicorn in Fantasyland. Then I got into by drinking a special potion while looking up information on fantasies. Totally weird. Then I remembered something. Ah! My report! Ah, no! How long would it take me to get to the palace? I started brainstorming. Then I realized that I was riding on an expert of this place. Clover, how long do you think this whole getting me back to me real world thing will take? I asked. Well, that depends, she started. In your world or mine? You mean the time is different here than back at home? I asked in shock. That could be good, but it also could be bad. Yes, she said. Here in Fantasyland it is. She fiddled with something on her neck that I hadn't noticed before. What is that? I asked, pointing at the thing on her neck that looked like a necklace. This is a tracker, said Clover. What does it track? It doesn't really track, but you can ask it any question about Fantasyland. It will answer automatically. I am going to ask it about what time it is, she concluded, finally managing to pull the tracker off. Tracker 0450, time in Fantasyland, demanded Clover in a way that didn't sound like her at all. Then there was a robot-like female voice that said, Tracking time in Fantasyland. Tracking time in Fantasyland. Time in Fantasyland is 4:02 p.m. 34 seconds. Thanks a bunch, Tracker 0450, said Clover in a cheerful manner. You're welcome, Clover. I am available at any time. I'm available in any place. I can answer any question about Fantasyland, she said. I smiled. I could get used to this stuff. Then I quickly cut into my own thoughts and asked Clover, Oh, Clover, I forgot. Can you ask Tracker 0450 what time it is in the real world? Well, not really the real world, but my world. Oh, yes, that's right. Sorry, I forgot. Sure thing, though. She went back to the unlike Clover voice and said, Tracker 050, time in Earth from Fantasyland. Tracking time in Fantasyland, said the robot-like voice from the necklace again. Tracking, time in Earth is 2:02 and 56 seconds. Every minute on Earth is an hour in Fantasyland. I know what you seek. You will be home soon enough so that it will seem like you had just come back from a regular trip to the library, but with some information on fantasies, and then you will ever need, said Tracker 0450. That was very helpful. Thank you, Tracker 050, I said in a most robot-like demanding voice. I could adjust my voice to do. You're welcome, Jamie. Wow, I said. How did you know my name? Tracker 0450 is programmed to know that information by the sound of your voice. She understands by the vibration and air from your voice. You have talked so much up to now that Tracker 0450 knows almost everything about you, said Clover. That's amazing, I said. I've got to get one of those when I get back to my world. Chapter 9. After a long sightseeing journey through Fantasyland, I saw the outline of a castle up ahead. Is that it? I asked Clover. You bet it is. I was really excited. I wondered what would happen when we got there. Who would greet us? What would the unicorn of true good be like? I was soon going to find out. When we approached the castle, Clover steered downward and landed in a nice grassy spot. She chomped on a piece and said, castle grass is always an appetizer and a good snack too. Sorry about the interruption. Let's get back to business. Unicorns have to eat, you know. I giggled and said, yeah, I know. I'm actually getting hungry myself. I think I'll make myself a mega tuna sandwich when I get home. We walked toward the huge iron bars of the castle gate, which was guarded by an enormous troll. He looked as if he would eat any trespassers without thinking twice. He was hideous and awfully scary. If Clover weren't there with me, I think I might have fainted. Halloa, Ed, said Clover cheerfully to the troll.
Top of the morning to you. How's everything been going?
Not so well. Oh, halloa, Ed, said Clover cheerfully too. Top of the morning to you. How's everything been going?
Not so well, Clover, said Ed in a gruff, grumbling voice. The amulet of the Queen has been stolen by the unicorn of, even I dare not say it, he said.
The big pile of gruel now seemed like a small mopping ant, looking as if he had been just lost his whole family. I had a lot of questions in mind to ask Clover as soon as we got inside. Oh, no, said Clover tragically. Then she turned to me and said, You might not get back home as soon as we thought. I'll explain inside. I don't understand what was going on, but I know there was something. I couldn't wait until we got inside. Well, I hope you have a good one, Ed, said Clover to the troll.
You too, Clover, and please watch out for yourself. I wouldn't want you to get hurt.
Oh, Ed, you're so sweet, but I think we have to be going now. I have to return this youngster to her own world, said Clover with a wink. Then Ed used his powerful muscles to open the huge gate, and we walked across the beautiful path decorated with flowers and bushes of berries leading up to the palace. We walked along the beautiful halls of the palace. They were decorated with portraits of unicorns. Every once in a while, Clover would point out an important unicorn out of the pictures, and sometimes she would say something like, she even knew them. She knew this one, or she knew that one. Or so, that's my great grandmother, or Patricia, or something like that. Then we came up to a wonderful, beautiful door that had a golden border and golden etchings carved decorations along the sides. Two knights were standing at the door. They were knights of the High Elven kindred. "Halt!" cried the first knight. "Who goes there?" Clover laughed. "Is that you, Frank? It's only me, Clover. You have so much armor on that you can barely recognize me." "Clover, is that you? I guess I do have too much of this stuff on, but we have to be extra careful these days. Has Ed told you the news yet about the amulet?" "Yes, he has. But now we need to see my sister. Would you mind opening the door for us?" "Sure," replied Frank, and he took out a key. "But just to let you know, the unicorn of true good, he's not in a good mood right now. You take it easy." "Don't worry, I'll handle her," said Clover. I was really glad that Clover knew all these people. Frank opened the door and he let us in. I heard distant weeping coming from the other side of the room. I decided that this was something that Clover should take care of. Clover walked into the room and saw her sister weeping on her royal chair. "Oh, sister, what's the matter?" asked Clover sadly. "I heard there's been trouble in the palace." "Oh, Clover, there's been so much trouble in the palace. The unicorn of true good," said in the most beautiful sing-songy voice I'd ever heard in my life. It was mixed in with slight weeping and tears, though she was beautiful in her royal gown. She wiped her tears on her dress. "Tell me the troubles," said Clover. The unspeakable." The unicorn's voice trailed right off. Right now, nothing was making sense. "Oh, you mean you mean her?" "I'm afraid so, dear sister," said the unicorn queen. "Yes, Ed has told me about it. We are here to help. Though now with this news, our little guest here won't be getting home as soon as we though." Clover gave me a sad look. "Well, who is this?" asked the unicorn queen. "This is Jamie. She comes from the other world. She was led here by mistake. She uncovered the magic book." "Oh, Jamie, how misfortunate you are to come here at a time like this. You see, I don't think you may ever find a way back home if this trouble keeps up." "I couldn't tell. I was not the only one in a bad condition." "Well," exclaimed Clover, "I guess now we must take matters into our own hands. Of course, I don't have hands, but why take silly expressions literally? At this point in time, it isn't that silly, though." But in the matter of expressions, Clover was cut short when the unicorn queen exclaimed, "Please, Clover, you may go on." "Oh, yes, sorry about the interruption." The unicorn laughed and said, "Oh, Clover, how happy you can make me at such tragic times. All right, we shall be off then." "Oh, Clover," said the unicorn queen, "please do be careful and take care of young Jamie. She has gone too far, and well, just keep an eye out for her. I wouldn't want anything bad to happen to her, if you know what I mean." "I can promise you this, sister," said Clover. "I will not let you down. This night and her brave assistant shall not fall. Of course, this is also a figure of speech, but let us not get carried away again with that. And we shall be off. I've already said that, haven't I? Oh, you silly duck. Geez, you've gotten me into this figure of speech thing, too. Let us just have it settled. Thank you for this, though, Clover, and especially Jamie, said the Unicorn Queen. You might never know how much this might do in the whole world of fantasy, so let us keep it at that. Farewell, sister, said Clover. And to you, said the Unicorn Queen with a sigh. And she threw her back and neighed. Like you've never heard a horse neigh before. And Clover did the same, and I was still clueless of it all, though. Chapter 10. We're nearing our destination zone, said Clover after a long and tiring flight through Fantasyland. Is that a good thing? I asked. Not always. The castle of the true evil is not always the place you'd be most eager to reach, but we have a mission to accomplish. Yeah, I said. Is that it over there? That big black castle? It is, Clever answered. I watched her, and she seemed to slow her pace just a little, though. Then I blurted out, without thinking twice. Are you scared? Clover stopped in her tracks. She turned around at me. No. Why would you think that? She asked. Oh, just wondering, I said. I knew she was lying, though her cheeks had turned red, and she quickly turned around to hide her embarrassment. We walked longer until I could see something guarding the castle. It was a huge, two-headed cat, more like a leopard, I thought. She was at least 25 feet high, and it was hideous. She swiped at me a deadly claw through the air, hiss, and hissed. She knew that we were approaching. What is that? I asked Clover. We call her Sweetie, but don't judge a character by their name. She's deadlier than 100 fire-breathing dragons. They say that if you look into her eyes, you will see the most awful things you ever imagined. They also say there is a secret way to kill her, but don't listen to those old stories. The only way to defeat her is to kill her without ever looking into her eyes. And that's exactly what we intend to do. I felt bad. I didn't want to kill her, but I knew it was the only way. I watched as Clover lifted a wing and two swords magically appeared under it. She tossed one at me and caught it at the handle. I swiveled round a couple of times just to test it, and we marched right up to the beast. As soon as we were close enough to see every detail, from her bloody fangs to her spiked tail, I froze in fear. I dropped my sword, and Clover was also hypnotized. Her sword fell to the ground. Sweetie popped swords into her mouth just as you would pop a French fry into your mouth, and roared. It was louder than the loudest sound you've ever heard, times 3. I clasped my hands over my ears to block the awful noise. We tried to go around her by distracting her, but she had two heads. One was watching me, and the other Clover. We have to make a run for it, Clover. We have to make a run for it, Clover said. But I didn't hear her. I was looking deep into Sweetie's eyes, concentrating. No! Cried Clover. Don't do it! She'll hypnotize you. Don't look into her eyes. Don't! I looked into her eyes. I saw fires, everyone burning. My friends, my family. I saw the whole world dying into blackness. Then I saw Puppy. She emerged from the fires and horror in the eyes of Sweetie, a helpless little puppy. She was whimpering. And then another puppy. It was as as her, helpless as her appeared next to her. Helpless as she appeared next to her. Suddenly I knew how to defeat Sweetie. Chapter 11. Clover! I called. Clover! I know how to defeat Sweetie. I know how to defeat her. No way, said Clover. She's eaten our swords. We have no weapons. We don't need weapons. Sweetie is a dog. What? Said Clover. Sweetie is a man-eating monster. She's a leopard with 2 heads. No, I told her. I saw it in her eyes. She's a puppy. We have to whistle. Puppies respond to whistling. If you say so, said Clover. I guess we don't have much time to lose. So I whistled. I whistled with all my might. I whistled so hard that I think my parents could have heard me. All the dogs in the universe could have heard me, for all I knew. But I did it, because as I watched Sweetie, I could see her shrinking. Her fangs shrunk, her spiky tail disappeared, her spots were gone. I watched in utter amazement as the 2 bodies pulled apart. In her place lay 2 helpless little puppies, the ones that I had seen in Sweetie's eyes. The unicorn of true evil had captured them and kept them prisoner as an evil creature. Clover was just standing there, mouth wide open, and staring at the 2 puppies, then back at me. As I looked around the puppies, I could see many things that Sweetie had swallowed in all those years she had been held prisoner. Swords, axes, bow and arrows and spears, and even a few skeletons. Then I spotted our swords. I picked them up and handed Clover's to her. After all I'd been through so far, I thought we'd need them. Jamie, you are one of the smartest people I've ever met. Of course I haven't met many humans at all, but let's just say you are a very special girl, she said with a smile. Thanks you, I said, but then after a pause I said, it would be best if we carried on. I looked at the puppies once more and knocked on the giant wooden door that stood before us. Who goes there? A guard called from inside. Clover thought fast. I am the sister of the unicorn of true evil. I have thought up some genius plans for her to take over Fantasyland. I would like to share them with my sister. Her voice sounded different, and I knew that she had changed her pitch to sound more evil-like. I figured out that the Ute, or the unicorn of true evil, stood for the unicorn of true evil. Come right in, said the guard, sounding pleased. I'm sure the Ute will be happy to see you. She has just conquered the amulet of the Utig, the unicorn of true good, and is in a good mood. I could see Clover try to hide her fury. She stepped into the palace. It was beautiful, decorated with other Utes that ruled the palace years before. They all had the same evil glow in their eyes. I shuddered as I walked along, staying close to Clover. Well, here goes nothing, Clover said. She walked up to the big door that stood before us. I knew it was the door to where the Ute kept all her precious amulets. I took a deep breath and stepped in with Clover by my side. Chapter 12. Oh, my word! Clover managed to stammer. I looked round also and found myself totally speechless. The room was filled with beautiful amulets of gold and silver and red and blue and green and pink and yellow and every other color you could think of inside a huge glass case that filled up the walls. It was brightly lit by diamond chandeliers hanging from a very high ceiling that was decorated with patterns of red and black and yellow. Then I went over to examine the amulets. There must have been at least 100. And it would have been very hard to find the one we were looking for without Clover with me. Over there, she said, right on cue. She was pointing to an amulet at the far left corner of the room. All the amulets were labeled, and this one was labeled, "My newest and most prized amulet so far." So I snickered at that. Clover walked up to the amulet, checked it out, just to make sure it was the right one. It was. She lifted her front feet and prepared to break the glass when a dark black figure entered the room. Clover gasped. "Ah, we were caught!" I was so relieved when I saw that it was just the guard, because I knew Clover would think up something equally as clever as her other trick. I could almost feel the gears in her brain speedily working. I was just checking out her newest amulets, looking at what I should honor her for when I pay her my little visit. "Please excuse me. I did not have permission to come in here, but what do you expect from the sister of the unicorn of true evil?" Clover said quickly. "I have talked to the Ute and told her about your little visit. Surprisingly, she has told me she does not have a sister of any kind. Can you explain this?" the guard asked cautiously. Well, she probably has forgotten all about me. I mean, she is a very busy unicorn, and sometimes these things just slip away." Clover couldn't finish. The guard reached out his muscular arm and grabbed Clover by the waist. She whinnied a helpless cry. I knew what to do. I took a very deep breath and got my body ready. I ran up to the glass case and slammed into the section with the amulet of the Utig, the unicorn of true good. I broke through the glass and snatched the amulet. The guard roared with fury. He quickly dropped Clover and lunged for me. I ducked just in time. I tossed the amulet back to Clover, leading the guard in a different direction. We played this game of monkey in the middle for about 5 minutes, before Clover finally headed for the door with me following her. Unfortunately, we had company. "Well, well, well," said the Ute, in a voice that made you utterly furious. "What have we got here? Two hopeless creatures, thinking you can defeat—" I wasn't going to stay here for her little speech. I stuck my head forward and butt the unicorn of true evil right in the ribs, if unicorns even have ribs. Of course they do, silly girl. She cried out in pain and anger. Clover took the hint and ran for the door. The guard stopped her short. She ran toward me, and we sped back to the room with the amulets. "Quick!" Clover cried. "Get back on my back, and I'll bust us out of here through the ceiling." "Be right there," I said. I quickly rammed into a couple more of the glass cases and managed to snatch 3 more amulets. I made sure that one was the Ute's amulet itself. Then I hopped onto Clover's back, and we crashed through the ceiling, and I slept the whole way back to the Unicorn of True Good's palace. Chapter 13. "Wow!" cried the Unicorn of True Good in utter amazement. When I finally got myself awake, I found myself in the Unicorn of True Good, the Utig's room. I never thought my own sister, though I've never doubted you anyway, and a human would pull off a stunt like this. Look, you've even managed to get the Ute's amulet and 2 of her others. You should be very proud of yourself, Jamie. And you, Clover. Well, you've always had something to be proud of." Clover smiled at her sister and gave her a unicorn hug. I was very happy. Well, I was, until I thought about home. My mother must be worried sick about me. "Clover," I cried, "I need to get home. It's been a whole day almost. I got here in the morning, and now it's nearing night. My mother will be worried sick." Don't sweat it, dear, said the unicorn of True Good. 1 hour here is only 1 minute back in your world. Right now it's only about 10 minutes where you live. That made me feel much better. I sighed a relieved sigh. It was also because I was very tired. I knew I should be heading home. Clover, I think it would be best if I should be on my way now, I said. I was very sad, because I'd been through so much and had become very close friends with Clover and the Utig. Even Ed, the gruesome troll god, didn't want to leave, but I couldn't live here forever. Clover didn't seem to be very happy about this either, and she also knew what was best. I said goodbye to Clover and the Utig, and even Ed, and then Clover took the amulet from her sister and began chanting some magic words. Ule male vale matus, ule male vale matus, ule male vale matus, ule male vale matus, ule male vale matus. I didn't feel or see anything after that until I was back in the library with a book in my hands. The next day at school I handed my report to Mrs. Zisha. She quickly read through it. She can read really fast. She liked it a lot. This is amazing, Jamie. I'm so impressed. That is an automatic A+. And it's as if you really had gone on a magical Fantasyland journey. And oh, but that's impossible. You have no idea, I thought to myself with a grin. The end. And that was Fantasyland by Rumeysa Kalin. I hope you all enjoyed it. I know I did.